Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for NCEA's webinar, Edcamps, a free and teacher-driven professional development movement. I'm Andrea Kopp, Manager of Educational Resources for NCEA, and I'm happy to host this webinar for you today. Before we begin, please know that all your microphone connections have been muted. If you have questions during today's presentation, please send those through the question box that appears in your GoToWebinar panel. To ask a question, use your mouse to click into the blank box area, type your question using your keyboard, and then click Send. The webinar presentation will last about 45 minutes. You can post your questions at any time throughout the presentation to be added to the queue. Immediately following the webinar, you'll be prompted to complete a brief survey about your webinar experience today. I thank you in advance for providing us with this valuable feedback. For those of you who are attending the webinar live, you'll find a copy of the presentation materials and a certificate of attendance in the handout section of your GoToWebinar panel. You may download them at any time. You'll receive an email tomorrow with instructions on accessing this recording. Let us begin as we do all things in prayer. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. Lord God, your spirit of wisdom fills the earth and teaches us your ways. Look upon these teachers. Let them strive to share their knowledge with gentle patience and endeavor always to bring the truth to eager minds. Grant that they may follow Jesus Christ, the way, the truth, and the life, forever and ever. Amen. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. Well, hello, this is a unique experience for me. I'm used to being more behind the scenes with our NCEA webinars, but today I'm serving as your presenter as well as your host. Just a little background about myself for those of you who don't know me. I started my career in Catholic education in Naples, Florida as a high school social studies teacher. I later relocated with my family to Pensacola, where I began parish work as a confirmation coordinator and youth minister. I transitioned back into the classroom in Panama City, Florida as a middle school science and English teacher, as well as continuing as a ministry volunteer. A little over a year ago, I relocated to the DC area to join the NCEA staff, where I now work with educators across the country to provide professional development and opportunities to network and share resources. The nature of my position now is really about serving educators by helping connect them to each other. That's part of why I was so drawn to the Edcamp model. When I transitioned from the classroom to NCEA, it really opened my eyes to how many great things are going on in education around the country, especially in Catholic schools. Within that learning, I kept coming across the term Edcamp, and I wasn't really familiar with the concept, so I decided to find one and go check it out. I'm just wondering from our audience what everyone's experience level is with the Edcamp model. I'm going to launch a quick survey, if you don't mind filling that out while we chat. I'd like to know what your current experience level is with Edcamps. Are you brand new to Edcamps? Have you attended one or two? Have you attended several? Have you been an Edcamp leader before, or have you led multiple Edcamps already? So if you don't mind filling that out as we go. It looks like we have a good mix in our audience tonight. We have some that are new to Edcamps, and we have some veteran leaders. Our poll results say 60% of our audience is new to Edcamps, 13% have attended one or two, 7% have attended several, 13% have been an Edcamp leader before, and 7 have led Edcamp multiple times. That's great, because what is so wonderful about the Edcamp model is sharing the collective experience of its participants. So for the sake of our newbies out there, I would love for those of you who have been involved with Edcamps already to just post your answers in the question box. Give me your definition. What is Edcamp? I know I see some familiar faces and Edcamp enthusiasts on the webinar tonight, so I know you aren't shy, and will send me some answers. I'll share those with the audience in a moment, so just go ahead and type them in the question box. While you're doing that, I'm going to talk to you about what Edcamp isn't. A common nickname for Edcamps is an unconference, because they kind of buck the system in regard to traditional professional development format that you may be accustomed to. For example, your school or diocese may prescribe a specific training that they identify that you need to take. You either pay to attend or a speaker is paid to come in and present and work with the staff. You have an agenda, so you know what's going to be covered. The presenter speaks, you listen, maybe you do some activities. If you're lucky, the presenter is really good and engaging. If not, you check emails on the sly or grade some papers. It really is kind of the luck of the draw if you come away feeling energized and inspired, or if you have any new tools that you can start using. Even if the conference or the training was excellent and you want to come back and start incorporating what you learned right away, you may be on your own as far as implementing what you learned. So what Edcamp isn't is fee-based. The cardinal rule of Edcamp is that it's free and open to all. Edcamp also does not have a predetermined agenda. So that can be a little bit of a barrier for people giving it a try for the first time because they want to know, well, what are the topics that are going to be discussed? Edcamps are designed on site by the attendees, so that's a little bit different. There is no sage on the stage. There's not one person getting up in front of the room and taking charge. It's engaging everyone in the room, the collective experience of all of the participants. It's not a sit and listen. Everyone is expected to engage and participate. Everyone is an equal contributor. And there is not just one topic that you're going to learn about that day. There are going to be multiple topics based on the interests of the attendees. Please know that this webinar is in no way downplaying traditional professional development. Just to prove it to you, I put a photo of myself doing everything I just said Edcamps don't do. I've always been a PD junkie and loved going to trainings. Now that I give trainings, I love it even more because I get to work with so many different teachers around the country, and I always feel like I learn so much more from the practitioners in the field. There is still a need for traditional PD, but Edcamps are an easy and low-cost alternative because the resources, let's face it, are limited. You can't always afford every speaker. You can't always travel to every great conference that's out there. So it's an easy and low-cost way for you to bring customized PD to your teachers in your local area. So we know what it isn't, so let's look at some of those answers from our audience about what is Edcamp. I see some comments say participant-driven, that's great, educators coming together, created for teachers by teachers, fun, never boring, taking responsibility for your own learning, the rule of 2 feet, that's great, we'll talk about that one in a minute. Great answers, thanks guys. If you've Edcamped with me, it's highly likely that you'll see your photo somewhere in the presentation today, or I may quote some of these great answers during upcoming Edcamp presentations that I have. You'll see that I have a lot of pictures in here of myself, not because I'm a narcissist, just because they're all pulled off of my Twitter page. So, and you see in this one, this is from the Edcamp Leadership Summit that I attended recently in Kansas City, and you'll see other familiar faces out there if you're a member of the Catholic Ed Chat gang. And if you're not engaging in Catholic Ed Chat, that's a great professional learning network. I encourage you on Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. Eastern to join hashtag Catholic Ed Chat and get to know some of these awesome educators. Lots of Edcamp enthusiasts in that group. Okay, so really, what is it? This is my best crack at a definition of Edcamps. Edcamp is a free and easily replicable, participant-driven professional development option to share best practices, ask questions, and develop professional learning networks with peers. The Edcamp model was inspired by bar camps, which were groups of computer developers and hackers who would organize events to get together and learn from each other. A group of educators adapted the model for teachers, and they became Edcamp Philly. The promotion of the event all took place on Twitter. The social media that connected these teachers over time inspired them to get together and have one of these, adapt this model and have the first Edcamp. Over time, they became more popular and spread across the country and even the world. In 2010, 9 Edcamps were held in the United States, and as a result, their popularity and the power of social media led to them expanding. You can see here how many Edcamps have been held every year. To date, there have been over 1,000 Edcamps held in 27 countries around the world. The Edcamp model is now supported by a foundation, the Edcamp Foundation, to help spread the model. The foundation is passionate about providing teachers and educators opportunities to connect and empower each other. One thing that I think is why Edcamp is a great fit for our Catholic schools is depending on the size of your diocese and where you're located in the country, you may be the only teacher of a particular grade or subject in your town. You may not have the opportunity to connect with lots of other teachers all the time. And no matter how many years we've taught or grades that we've taught, there's always, something new that you can be learning. And learning from each other, people who are in the field and doing this every day, it may be a very simple thing that seems very natural to them that can change your practice. So I find them to be very powerful. I really enjoy not only the camaraderie of of working with teachers because it's always energizing to work with great teachers, but constantly learning myself. And it's just, they're so easy and accessible. So since the Edcamp model is kind of the opposite of everything we think of in regard to traditional PD, one of the challenges of selling the Edcamp model is describing it to educators who haven't experienced it. One of the things about Edcamp is that it's kind of intimidating to sell to someone or get them to try it if they don't know what the agenda is going to be. Some people just aren't used to that mindset yet. It reminds me kind of the old TV show Seinfeld, which was described as a show about nothing, and they're trying to sell it to the TV executives, like, what is it about? Well, it's about nothing, and why is it a show? It's a show, and trust me, it's a show. And it's kind of the same thing with Edcamps. So selling the idea to teachers and principals to get them on board is tough if they don't understand it or haven't experienced the model yet. So I kind of found this video put out by the Edcamp Foundation. I wanted to share it with you as a resource, and I will email you the link tomorrow with the follow-up materials to kind of help you in giving a pitch to how to sell Edcamp, either to attract attendees or to get some of your school leaders on board. We'll play this for you real quick.
When you go to an Edcamp, because it's driven by the people there, because what happens depends on the passion of the people who come, that is stimulating. It sends you away from an Edcamp with a new vision of yourself as an educator.
We became teachers so that we could talk to people, and we talk to kids most of the time, so it's really nice to talk to adults.
It's interesting. It makes it free. It makes it fun.
There's really that dialogue and collaboration. That's what really stood out to me about Edcamp. Like, that's what makes Edcamp different from anywhere else you go. It's totally teacher-driven, and you really get the most out of it.
It allows staff to be able to control their learning.
Edcamp started in Philadelphia. The first Edcamp was in May of 2010. We tweeted it out to everybody that we knew and encouraged them to come. And we had about 100 teachers show up on that day.
One of the best things about Edcamp is that it's free.
Edcamp participants come from every kind of school that there possibly is.
It's for every teacher, whether you're in your first year teaching or you're in your 25th year teaching.
It's all things that you can implement immediately.
What you will see at an Edcamp, you won't find anywhere else.
In the past, professional development days are a snooze, and it's so boring to sit there and listen to what somebody else has decided for you that you need to know and do.
As we say, there isn't an expert in the room is the expert. It's all of the educators together talking and sharing that creates the expertise.
The unconference models were really fresh, they were interesting.
Anyone there can go up and host a session, because hosting a session means just being the first person to ask the question.
It makes me a much more engaging teacher.
We've had over 750 Edcamps. Most of them are in the United States, but we've been in 24 countries around the world.
You don't even have to be at Edcamp to enjoy Edcamp. If you're on Twitter and you just follow the hashtag, then you get to experience everything that is happening there.
It's been an exciting growth of a movement. All the educators who come together for an Edcamp are doing it to learn. They know that they are better in their classroom when they are learning.
There's a lot of powerful development that can come from going to an Edcamp.
And at the end of the day, when we all go back to school, we all have something to talk about and how we can better the school.
That positive impact and it transferring into the classroom is going to have a positive impact on students.
I definitely understand my students better from going to Edcamp.
It's no longer me up there speaking to the class the entire time. I've taken the Edcamp model into my classroom and made it more conversational. I give my children chances to reflect, to share what they're learning each day, which is what we do at Edcamp.
From the very beginning, it was clear through social media and through the teachers that were there that this had something special.
I remember just thinking, I can't wait to plan and figure out how I'm going to start incorporating these things into my classroom.
I start seeing people say, hey, go out to the Edcamps, because that's where you can kind of get your answers from nowadays.
And the conversations were so effortless, and the teachers there were so easy to connect with, because we were all there for the same reason.
Also that it's on Saturdays and there's thousands of people doing this on their own free will, and that nobody's making them do it. It shows how excited teachers are to learn and grow. And that's the most important thing about Edcamp, is that we get to choose what is relevant for us and grow.
So I love how that ends, where lady at the end talks about how valuable and powerful it is for people to get to choose how they want to grow. And I think that is, something we do all the time for our students, individualized teaching. But how often do we get to experience that as adult learners? So I think that's another really powerful impact that Edcamps can have. So if you're a first-time participant for Edcamp, here's a little bit about what to expect. First of all, expect it to be a very casual, fun atmosphere. Come with an open mind. It can be a little off-putting to commit to a day or half a day of professional development. These are often held on a Saturday on your own free time, and not really know what you're going to talk about. It's a little bit of a leap of faith. The good news is that you're going to be with a group of people who don't mind giving up a Saturday to improve in their vocation to teach. So anyone who shows up is doing so in the same spirit of being excited about learning. That is always an awesome group of people to be around. As we referenced earlier, Edcamps follow the rule of 2 feet. That gives you control over your own learning. If a topic or a conversation is not helpful to you, you can simply move on to another session. When I first heard this, I thought, well, wow, that kind of seems a little bit rude or something, because we're not used to doing that. And an Edcamp leader that I was working with explained it to me in this way, and it really made sense to me. They said, today is your day to be selfish. This is your time to really take ownership of your learning. So if something, you don't ever want to walk out of an Edcamp feeling like, well, that was a waste of time, because you have control over your learning. So nobody is going to take it personally, and you're not obligated to stay for a whole discussion. So I thought that was so empowering as a participant to be like, well, okay, I think I've heard what I want to hear, and I really want to get to that other session. You can get up and move around. You'll find that in a session there's varied levels of expertise. So someone may be drawn to a particular session because they know a lot about it and they want to share ideas and resources, and there are others just getting started in that area and they're coming to ask questions and find resources. So because these events are participant driven, you're taking responsibility for your own learning. And they work. People come together and teachers are excited and they want to share and they want to learn, and we're used to helping kids and helping each other and borrowing from each other, so it works. As a participant, of course, you'll arrive at the destination. Hopefully you'll arrive a little early to give you time to network. You're going to want to post on the session board. The power of Edcamp is people participating, so there will hopefully be happy Edcamp leaders greeting you, giving you a name tag, and inviting you to post something on the session board, and often that's done in sticky notes. So write down however many things you want to learn about that day. Take some time to network and talk with colleagues. Choose the sessions that you would like to attend, and then lead, discuss, participate, and share. That is where the magic is. Make sure you bring your own mobile device, either an iPad, a tablet, a laptop, because oftentimes a lot of the note-taking and sharing of resources is done online. Make sure you post on social media. That's part of being a good Edcamper, is thanking sponsors. You'll see in the image on top there the sponsors that help support our recent Catholic Edcamp DMV, which was in the DC, Maryland, and Virginia area. We encourage our participants to tweet and Instagram and Facebook and really shout out and thank the people who help support and make the Edcamp possible. And tell your friends, because first of all, if you're posting on social media, you're telling your friends that way and generating excitement about the Edcamp. And as the video shared, even people who couldn't attend the Edcamp can follow the conversation by following the hashtag for that day. So you'll find on Saturday mornings often that you can follow multiple Edcamps even if you can't participate on a given day. Okay, so the best way to get started to familiarize yourself with Edcamp if you've not been to one before is to go to one. And you can find where your closest Edcamp is on www.edcamp.org. That is the Edcamp Foundation website. They have a wealth of information, including links to all the upcoming Edcamps in your area. If you want to lead an Edcamp, they will promote your Edcamp on their website. That is where people go to find them. So you want to make sure that you're working with them. Start there if you're considering attending or organizing an Edcamp. I'll go over some of the basics, get started in this presentation about organizing, but I encourage you to spend some time going through the resources on their site. They really do a great job of laying it all out in an easy to follow format. It's really all done for you. So how to organize? again, the Edcamp Foundation has all these resources and step-by-step guides laid out on their website. But the first thing you want to do is build a leadership team. And the most important quality you want in your leadership team is enthusiasm. You want people who are excited about this. They don't have to be super experienced with Edcamp or have experience in Edcamp at all. If they have a willing spirit and a lot of energy and enthusiasm, those are the people you want on your team. I would advise maybe picking people who represent different schools or grade levels in your area to kind of draw in a lot of different people. Then you'll pick a date and a venue, of course. When picking a date and venue, you want to make sure that you're checking your school calendar, diocesan calendars, make sure you're avoiding any major conflicts with big events in the area or holidays. You also want to make sure that your location has enough broadband to handle 100 people showing up with personal devices and an open Wi-Fi connection so they can all connect. Make sure you invite people. Talk about Edcamp all the time and make sure that you're reaching out to your local principals. If you can get the superintendent's office on board, that's fantastic because they have a very wide reach with their email lists. And if you can get a superintendent supporting you, that's a great way to leverage your efforts. If you have the ability to go around to local schools and attend their faculty meeting or leave flyers or things like that, you can do that as well. The more you talk about it, the more hands you shake, the more people you meet, just creates the enthusiasm. You can create a logo. You can do this through the Edcamp website. It'll even help you if you need it. So you can create your customized logo for your event. I would also advise creating a home page. You'll need a simple web page to manage your registrations and house your event information. You'll want to make sure that you register with the Edcamp Foundation for the Edcamp in a Box program. One thing you may be wondering is, well, how do you put on an event that's free? Because you don't want to spend money out of your pocket. That's a great aspect of the Edcamp Foundation. By registering through the Edcamp Foundation for the Edcamp in a Box program, they will send you a little bit of seed money, it's just a couple $100 to cover the cost of your event, which is usually food to feed people. Maybe some signage, things like that. They'll also send you little things like Post-it notes, Sharpies, buttons, stickers, postcards, little items like tote bags and hats for your organizers. And then promote your event. This is the most important aspect. Use your email lists, your social media, your school social media, your personal social media of your organizers and friends. Make sure and tag at NCEA Talk and at Edcamp USA in your post because we're happy to retweet and help you promote your event. Reach out to sponsors. Often Edcamps will have giveaways at the end of prizes for the participants. The Edcamp Foundation has a form you can fill out to help connect you with sponsors, but I would also reach out to local businesses or your PTO to help with refreshments or donations or prizes. Giving away prizes is not required, but it does kind of make it more fun for the participants. And then be sure to let NCEA know about your event. We're always happy to invite guest bloggers and retweet or share your posts of your day. We love sharing the good news of Catholic education, so please include us in what you're doing. Make sure you tag us or feel free to email me if you want help organizing or advertising your event. So when your participants arrive, if you're an organizer, many will be new to the Edcamp model. Make sure when you welcome them, you're enthusiastic and you encourage them to post their topics of interest to the session board. Designate people on your team to work registration, manage the session board, greet people, take photos, post on social media, and help facilitate conversations in the sessions. Name tags, it's simple, but they're a great icebreaker activity. You can bring markers and stickers and have a whole name tag decorating station near the food area. This gives people something fun to do with their hands while they're meeting people, thinking about what to post on the session board and kind of show off their personality a little bit. Make sure you have plenty of signage, not only to direct people where to go, but to remind them of session locations and times. You'll want to have a venue that has a common area big enough to gather everyone at once, and then enough rooms for breakout sessions. I would recommend breakout sessions to be about 45 minutes to an hour. Leave some time to shift rooms and make sure you incorporate some breaks into your agenda for the day. I'd also recommend replicating your session board online in a format such as Google Drive. That'll allow people to access all of the sessions, even those that they were not able to attend. Encourage information sharing and collective note-taking as well. Again, Google tools are great for this. Not only can you have your session board online, and by the way, Edcamp, the Edcamp Foundation has a sample session board on their website, so you can kind of just use that one and plug in your information. But engage in Google Docs, collective note-taking, so even if people are not in every session, they can access every session and get the information. The common session board and the shared documents are a great way also to build those professional learning networks. So if you want to incorporate something that you talked about at Edcamp, and you have a list of contacts and all the notes there, so you can reach out to those people and say, hey, remember we talked about this? Did you try it yet? What are you doing? You're not on your own afterwards. So really engage in the opportunity for creating a professional learning network. You want to have food, make sure there's coffee, water, that kind of stuff, keep people hydrated and on their sugar rush and all that. You can do these as a half day or a whole day. And again, the Edcamp Foundation does send you a little bit of seed money to help cover your costs with food. Make sure you and your team are circulating all the time. I recommend going over the Edcamp philosophy and the rules of the day beforehand, but also helping reinforce those throughout the day. Sometimes when you get into sessions, people kind of have a personality where they want to dominate the conversation while we want to encourage everyone to really participate. Again, we can gently remind people that, hey, that's a good point. Thanks for bringing that up. Is there anyone else in the room that has input on that or questions on that? To kind of help keep the conversation going, that someone is not taking over the room. And then there are also people who hang back and are a little shy, so that's another way you can draw people out. Well, hey, how are you doing with that in your school, or have you tried that yet? So it's a way to draw people in. Promote. Tweet, post on social media, create a designated hashtag for your event so it's easy to follow after the fact and also for those at home who maybe weren't able to come. And make sure you thank your sponsors. And then keep in touch with your participants afterwards. You can invite them to future events, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about some follow-up things that you can do to keep the Edcamp momentum going. And blogging. I know NCEA is always looking for blog content and guest bloggers. The Edcamp Foundation is also interested in hearing from you about your event. So you can contact both NCEA and the Edcamp Foundation to share what happened in your Edcamp. So easily my favorite part of Edcamp is the demo portion of the day. Sometimes it's called a demo slam. In your session board, I recommend opening up a spot for an open forum demo showcase. Now these are brief, 2 or 3 minute presentations where any attendee can show off a cool tip or trick. These often have a technology focus, but they don't have to. It's a way for all of your participants to share and show off something from their toolbox. I've learned so many cool things, seen great sites and apps from attending Edcamps. And then often, as I mentioned earlier, you can do prize giveaways. It's not required, but it is kind of a fun thing to do, and there are resources to help you do that. So this image here is also from Twitter. It's our random name generator. That's a fun way to do it. And in follow-up, here are some really cool things that are being offered by the Edcamp Foundation. One are impact grants. You can actually apply for a grant to implement something that you learned at an Edcamp. They're open to teachers. So you apply through the Edcamp Foundation. I think they give away a total of 110 grants a year. They have to go through a review process. They're reviewed by organizers and approved. But I encourage you to take advantage of that opportunity. Another new program that the Edcamp Foundation has is Edcamp Labs. Now these are meant to be a deeper dive into extending something that you learned about at an Edcamp. So for example, if you were at an Edcamp and you heard about Breakout EDU, which is super cool if you haven't heard of it, that's a whole nother webinar. But if you had a group of people who really wanted to do a deeper dive and design something with Breakout EDU, you can apply for these lab grants, and the Edcamp Foundation will help fund breakfast and lunch for your participants for that Edcamp lab. So that's a really cool thing that I encourage you to take advantage of. Join Edcamp communities. On Facebook, there's a group, a very active group called Edcamp Organizers. You have to be approved to join, so if you just go on Facebook and find them and ask to join, someone from the Edcamp Foundation will review that and likely approve you. That is a great place for people who are far more experienced than me who run these super huge Edcamps. That's a great place to start with getting help and pro tips on Edcamps. Also follow Edcamp USA on Twitter and Instagram. If you want to follow some of the hashtags or use some of these hashtags at your Edcamps, it's why I Edcamp, because of Edcamp, and Edcamp. Also, remember, be sure to follow at NCEA Talk, tag NCEA Talk. You can tag me at 80cop76, and I'll be happy to retweet and leverage, and you can always reach out to me that way for questions, as well as through my email at NCEA. Another way that we can kind of connect is at our NCEA convention that is coming up in April. We're going to be hosting a Lunch and Learn event at NCEA 2017, where we will be implementing the Edcamp model with the thousands of teachers from across the country that come to convention. Space is limited, so you do need to register ahead for this event. If you've not registered for convention already, there will be an option for you to add the Lunch and Learn ticket to your registration. If you've registered for convention already and want to add this in, I believe that feature is going to be available on the NCEA website in a week or two, so check back. If you have trouble with that, please reach out to me directly. I'll be happy to help you. So I encourage you to attend our Lunch and Learn. So I want to open it up to questions from our audience today. Okay, we have one regarding, can you use the Edcamp logo in your promotion? Yes. Not only can you use the Edcamp logo, but you can customize it and add to it. So there are resources on the Edcamp website in order to do that. So definitely, and I think that they're going through a redesign process of their logo, but keep checking the Edcamp Foundation website. You can find the logo there, and if you want to do something really intricate, I think they can help you. Okay, someone asked, can you do an Edcamp if it's not open to the public? Yes and no. The Edcamp model, the rules of Edcamp, are that they are free and open to all. So there are a couple of levels of that. If you're doing an Edcamp that is for a particular focus area, like special education or Catholic schools or something like that, you can name your Edcamp and use the Edcamp name and logo as long as the event is free and anybody can come. Now, in saying that, we did our Catholic Edcamp DMV in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, and while it was free and open to all technically, chances are you're not going to get a big draw of people who are not interested in Catholic education. So if you look on the Edcamp website, you'll see a multitude of kind of special topic or niche group areas. So you can identify that in your Edcamp naming and marketing, which will draw kind of the audience that you're interested in. And the chances are that too many people are going to come that are not interested in that area are probably slim. So if it's really just you want to limit it to a focus, then you can completely go through all of the traditional Edcamp registration organization process. Now, if you want it closed because of access, for example, you're doing one at a diocesan level and it's only open to your diocesan teachers, or you have a paid event like our Lunch and Learn at NCEA, that's a closed event to those who register for NCEA. At that point, you would want to steer clear from using the Edcamp name, and you would call it an unconference, but you can say that it's based on the Edcamp model. So that's the caveat there. So if your event is not free and open to all, you can still incorporate the Edcamp model, refer to it as the Edcamp model, but call it an unconference or change the name a little bit. Okay. Oh, we have someone who commented that they want to do an Edcamp in Cleveland. That's great. Right. Someone asked about how to get sponsors. Right, so as I mentioned earlier, the Edcamp Foundation does have a form that you can fill out, and they will share that with their corporate partners that they have. Sometimes they send things, little things to reach out. They have relationships already with companies who will send giveaways out, little things, stickers, pencils, sometimes bigger type prizes. You can reach out to those companies that your school already has a working relationship with. If you outsource, let's say, your website or something like that, and they want to give free trials to teachers for a product or a service, lots of people like to give away free trials or access codes. You can do some of that legwork yourself. That may be something that if you have, an active board at your school and they have connections in the community to kind of reach out and see if they can procure something from local business owners. It can be simple things like a gift card for a local store or service. Some things are very elaborate. I've seen Edcamps, they give away smart boards and document cameras and iPads, things like that. So it really can be as big or small as you want to be. So if you don't ask, you don't get anything. So I would encourage you not only to fill out the form with the Edcamp Foundation, but also to reach out to the resources in your local community, because a lot of people are very willing to support teachers because everybody loves teachers. Okay, well, that seems to be all the questions that have come in for this evening. I thank you all for joining me, and if you have any additional questions, please email me, find me on Twitter. I'm happy to help. I encourage you to register for NCEA 2017 if you haven't already. I'll definitely be there and looking forward to meeting teachers. I know a lot of you from Twitter and online, so it's always great to meet someone in person after knowing them so long over social media. And I will be presenting on Edcamps at the convention, and we will be practicing rather than preaching on the Edcamps. And please join us for the Lunch and Learn if you're available. As a reminder, I am going to be sending you this presentation and the follow-up materials in an email tomorrow. And I thank you for your continued support of the webinar program. And good luck with your Edcamp. Keep me posted. I look forward to hearing from you. God bless.